salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Tina, we have administrative business. It's on you.
Good morning. Well, okay, there it goes. I was going to say I lost my display up there. I heard from Randy. He's going to be a few minutes late this morning, and then also heard from Jack Chappelle with ES&D, and he is ill, so he is not going to be here today. He would like to reschedule for next week.
For
Okay.
the Jack, you said?
Yes, for the 10 o'clock.
Scratch the 10 o'clock.
I was looking forward to that. Okay.
I'll follow up with him this afternoon after the meeting to reschedule him.
Okay.
Okay. There's one of these for each of you. At the last regular meeting, there was an appointment request from the Supreme Court for a non-lawyer member to the Judicial Nominating Commission. And so I just want to follow up with you on that. You had asked for more information. And so that's what the memo is. I spoke with Debbie. And this commission is a lawyer and non-lawyer board that meets when a vacancy occurs in the office of judge. And so they don't have regular meetings, but if there's a vacancy in that office of the judge for our district, then they meet and recommend an appointment, someone to be appointed by the governor to fill that vacancy. And then I also spoke to Kevin Freesing, and also the records at the Kansas Judicial Center show that Mr. Freesing was appointed in 2000 when Bob Hine, which was former county commissioner, left. And then after that, he was appointed to a full 4-year term in 2002, and he's been serving ever since then. And I did speak with him, and he does enjoy serving on the commission. He's open to being reappointed, but he is also fine if somebody else is appointed. So that's the more information that you had asked for. I also included the second page is all of the people that are on that board for our district. So that appointment, they're asking for, I think by February 15th. So.
Okay. I also called Debbie. I'm glad you did it. That's the exact same thing. And it's interesting because I don't know why, it just didn't ring a bell with me, but I remember many years ago I participated in something similar to this, to where an appointment had to be made for a judge for somebody who died or what. But anyway, so once I did that and then listened to you two, I'm very familiar with what this is all about. And actually sometimes they can go a year or so and not even have a meeting.
Well, they can go much longer than that.
Yeah.
I mean, judges don't necessarily come up that
Resign
often.
or whatever very often, so it's not like it's a regular ongoing thing. So,
Right.
do I hear a motion to go ahead and nominate him? Do you have any, Ken, what do you think?
I don't know, I haven't talked to anyone that, trying to think of a person that might have an interest in doing that. He's been doing it a long time. Might be good to have someone new, but like I said, it's kind of like you don't know if you're even going to have a meeting in a year or 2 years, or so I don't.
Well, and you don't need to make an appointment today. If you want to do it next week, that's fine.
And I'm all for term limits, so I would go ahead and postpone that. If you'd like to think about that, we could do that.
Yeah, we got
Okay, let's
next
go
week, I
ahead.
guess.
Let's go ahead and just table that for a little while.
In your packet, you have the minutes of January 31st and the minutes of February 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 31st minutes.
I'll second them. I have a motion and a second for the January 31st minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 2-0.
Okay, we have the February 1st minutes for approval.
Make a motion to approve the February 1st, 2018 minutes.
And I'll second those as well. So I have a motion and a second for the February 1st minutes for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries again, 2-1. 2-0, I'm sorry. I can't count. And there you go, Tina. Thank you.
Okay, and in your packet you have change orders for approval.
Okay. Quite a stack. Do you want to take some of these
Sure.
again? Because there's quite a stack that might be able to help speed this up a little bit. How do we want to do that? It's gone.
Yeah, those are all yours.
Okay. The most exciting part of the meeting, right? that's it. Here you go.
Okay, thanks. In your packet, you had the bond and indebtedness report, and it's large. It's difficult to read, but I do have the paper copy in your mail folder, and it's also tiny. So, anyway, this is just a report that's just a report that we send to the state every year, and it has all of the entities on it, and then they send us this is what they send back for all the entire state. So, if you have questions or want to look at it in more detail, you can do that at any time. And when we did the budget, we had 2 department heads that have a part-time worker in their office, and they had put in a raise for that part-time person. And so I'm presenting the salary sheets for those. I don't know if you are going to want to do anything on that until the pay plan is reviewed. So you can look them over if you'd like. They did have the 2%, but those were requested at budget time, and they are budgeted. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be approved right now.
Okay, so we're looking at, well, I'll let you look at these. Personally, I think we should wait till we do the budget, that we should do the pay plan before we approve them. They just had a raise, and I think most of the employees are gonna see a nice little jump in their paychecks at the end of this month as well if we go to the new tax scale. Well, from what I'm hearing from other bookkeepers and things, some of those are gonna be nice little extra cash into
But
their
you said
pocket.
this had been requested.
It was requested at budget time.
And we approved it.
It was put in the budget,
Oh, it was just
but
put
it
in the
hasn't
budget.
been
Okay.
awarded.
This
at
isn't
point.
something that we actually approved.
No.
We just budgeted.
Right,
Okay,
you
I would
budgeted.
agree.
Okay, that's kind of where I thought you would be, but I,
Thought if we approved it, we need to approve it.
okay, yeah, no, it's not. Okay. And really, that's all the administrative business that I have. I do have the bids for the county counselor, and so you may want to, since we have that on the agenda later, if you don't have anything else to discuss right now, this might be a good time to review those,
Okay.
so that you're ready for that, or if there's something else you'd like to discuss, then we can do that.
Might as well look at it. You've got something else.
Do we have to go into executive session to do that?
No.
Or is that just, okay, yeah, let's look at it.
They're just proposals.
Okay, perfect.
So you can, there's a little summary on the top.
Go back to work. Do you know, is anybody out there for the Marion County Lake and Planning?
Straight one.
You're done, right? You
Yes,
said
I'm
you
done.
finished, yes,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, no, is anybody here for the monthly county lake planning discussion?
I'm here to observe.
Okay. Have you heard anything?
No, that's just, it was scheduled every month, and so I didn't know if you want to continue to leave that on the agenda, or if you want to take it off.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Before Brian left, there's been a lot of logs pulled up on the shore. Are there any plans to get the road and bridge out there to pick those and haul those off before they float back into the water when we have high water?
I don't think there's a plan in place to do that yet.
There's quite a bit. I mean, it's gonna take some trucks and some equipment to get them loaded. But they are a hazard. And where some of them are laying, they're gonna kill the grass, which we wanna keep there for the runoff. But he did a hell of a good job, but it really needs to be looked after. You might wanna take a look at it and see what you think, but it's unsightly and it could be supposed to be dangerous.
I see, okay.
You said there was trees or logs?
Logs that have been pulled out of the water that's been floating there for years,
Somebody pulled them out?
yeah.
Brian did. Brian met
And,
before he
and
left.
it's
Before he
a
left,
safety
he was
thing,
working on it.
because if when we have high water, they float out into the main part of the lake. Then when we have skiers, jet boaters, they're dangerous.
Do we know when Gerald's coming back, or have you heard anything?
I believe he'll be back fairly soon. I don't know the date, I don't keep track of this.
I mean, they've already been pulled out.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we load them up?
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I'm getting at. I thought maybe if Carol was coming back, well, that would be a good job for her to get right after to do. But if he's not coming back, well then, you'd have to, Adam would have to be out there, and it's actually, I don't think that bucket for the blue tractor.
It's a two-man job with equipment.
Yeah, I think it is even to do that, so.
Or at least we're not in much of a threat for high water right now.
No, that's true, but it's coming, I hope.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope so too.
How many locations? I know of 2 locations.
Well, just
To use it.
down the road from where the Kingfisher is,
found mine.
all the way around and past the cement slab. There's
I-
two
I-
I like
sides of the
pens.
slab. And then there was some down by the spillway.
Okay.
Somebody pulled a dock out and dismantled it there. They're hauling that away.
Yeah, that's Gordon, or not Gordon, looking at you,
Is that
Gordon.
Mr. Crawford?
No, well, it's his dock.
It's
yes.
his dock.
His dock, but
Yes.
Gary's doing the work, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, maybe if we can talk to Jesse here when he comes in a little bit, well, maybe we can ask him if he
It's
can send
just a
somebody
thought.
out, a couple guys, if it's a cold day, to go out and pick that up. Yeah, I'd have no problem doing that, getting that.
Well, we're way ahead. If Jesse's out there, we could continue to move on.
I would just,
Go ahead and
just,
bring Jesse in.
yeah.
Come on in.
Morning.
Good morning,
I'm out
Jesse.
of here.
How are you all?
Good.
You know you're good.
So do you
Well,
wanna
of
leave,
course.
the question I have is, do you wanna leave this as a monthly time still
Oh, I'm
on the
sorry.
agenda?
Yeah.
Personally, I don't see any reason to. I mean, we got the K-State that we supported.
Well, I think
On
there's,
there.
I think there's something else. I think right now we need to list, maybe the fish and wildlife guys we need to get them on the, because there's quite a deal. I mean, K-State's looking at the outside of it, but the fish out there is a different one, and that's the fishermen. That's who our program's through, so maybe we need to get them in too and get them involved and see how, because there's a whole lot of fishermen out there that's really not proud of just removing everything out there, so.
Who's removing everything?
Well, the logs that we just talked about and taking them out and things like that, they're put in for fish habitat is what some of them's for, around the edges in the fishing area, maybe not up in the boating area, but down there, so I'd just like to hear from the fishing part of it too, because that's,
Are you talking about bringing individual fishermen in here?
no.
Wildlife Parks.
Okay, Wildlife and Parks, KDH, or the
Oh,
fishermen. The
okay.
fish part of it.
They handle
You just
the-
kept talking about
Yeah,
fishermen.
fish and wildlife
fishermen.
people.
They handle the fishery.
Yes,
Right,
gotcha.
and-
Okay.
I'd like to hear from them on the fishing side of it, because, that's what that lake is really.
In part, yes.
Basically started as, and so if we're doing something wrong for that, I'd like to make sure that we're not.
I think we kind of agreed though, at one point, to leave it on the agenda for once a month.
I think
Whether
that's-
anybody shows up or not.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that we agreed to do it whether nobody shows up or not. I know when we had the active group, he really pleaded for
Right.
once a month or something like that. That was that particular group's plea. But I would agree with Randy. I would like to hear also from
Sure.
Fish and I think that's, if we can have those people come in and hear a report from them and see what they might,
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no problem with
I don't
that.
know who to contact,
Our area
That would be-
game protector.
yeah.
that's in charge of that fish habitat part of it.
Mhm.
That would be who to contact,
Yeah.
would be our area game
And so,
protector, whatever
yeah.
it's called now.
I wouldn't have any
And
problem.
just
with
so
that.
we know that, that, because it's year after year for years that, even before I was commissioner,
Mhm.
that's what that was for, is fish habitat around there. So, there's the opinion that let's get everything out of there, nothing, and then there's the opinion from the fish side of it too, so.
Well, I've never heard the opinion that get everything out of there. I've never heard that opinion. Maybe you did. I know, we
Well, I just heard it the other day from Mr. Dunnigan. I can't believe there's anybody that's in trouble with cleaning the lake up.
Well, I guess you're the lucky one then to hear that. I did. And that was never the intent of anybody that I worked with, and I think we made that very clear. But I would agree to go ahead and have the
I would just like to-
Here from the professional side,
Yeah.
as far as the monthly lake cleanup planning, we're usually ahead of the schedule as it is, and if nobody shows up, then that throws our agenda off, and we're sitting here. So unless they have something specific at this time, I just assume take that off of that particular group.
I think we told, like Kent said, I think we told them we'd leave it on there, so I guess if we,
Sounds like maybe, I have two that say leave it
Yeah.
on and one that says take it off.
let's leave it on for a few months, see what
She
happens,
wants-
see if anything
Would you like
comes
to
up.
take an official vote, or are you okay with leaving it
Well,
on?
can we wait
or
until we get wildlife, maybe they come in next week or something?
Next month?
Next month?
Or next month, or in a couple of weeks, whatever.
Yeah. See,
Well,
What would you all like to do?
I guess if you wanna leave it on, well, I really would like to take it off, but as far as Fish and Lake, that's a different situation. I think if those other people wanna come in, I find it kinda silly to just because we told them we would leave it on, and now their group isn't even organized, why would we just leave it
Well-
on? I mean, if they have something, they can certainly call, they know the procedure to come in, and if there is a need to go back to a monthly discussion, we could do that.
it's not their fault that they're not organized. I think you just flat told them to disrupt, the way I understand it.
I didn't say whose fault it was, Randy. I'm merely bringing out a point of the agenda.
We can't-
Okay,
we
so
just
we
can't
have an
tell people
agenda
not-
here,
not-
and
not
we're
do what we
giving-
said.
So you wanna leave a spot on the
Leave it on there
agenda
for a couple months,
for,
see what happens. see
you
if
wanna
anybody
leave a
comes in.
spot on the agenda for a non-existent group, is that what you do?
Well, see if
Is that
anybody
what you're
comes in.
saying?
Yep.
Is that what you agree with? You
Well,
think that's wise?
especially if we can get wildlife and parks in next month,
Okay,
then we can
or,
review.
or at any time, you wanna get wildlife and parks in here as soon as we can, am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we can make contact with them and find out when they can come in.
sure.
But that's a little bit different than this in of itself.
It's all part of the way,
So,
And K-State is to start in March,
I think.
but they probably wouldn't have a report for us
no,
before
until May,
May,
Right.
probably.
Right.
April, May, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it either way, but I would agree with Randy that it'd be nice to hear from the wildlife and parks in
Okay.
regards to fishery.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, I think we're all in agreement of that.
Okay.
So do you kind of have clarity on that?
Sounds to me like for right now, I'm leaving it on every month at 9:30 for 10 minutes, and whether anybody shows up or not, and then I'm going to see if I can get Park and Lakes in here to,
next month, if we get the Fish and Wildlife here by then,
right,
you know, we can take
KWPT.
that.
You keep saying next month. Are you gonna wait till, try to schedule next month, or are you just gonna try to get them in as soon as they can so we can?
I'll just see when they can come.
Yeah.
Okay, so it really has nothing to do then with the monthly, thing that we have here. You're just gonna try to schedule them to see if they can come in and give
Yes,
us a report.
I'll try to schedule them.
Okay, alrighty. I'm totally opposed to leaving that on here since we have no organized group. I mean, I just think it's silly to waste our time like that.
I'm ready to move on to Road and Bridge, Jesse.
Excuse me, sir. I am running this meeting and I'm not finished with this. I was just about to ask Kent, do you really think that it would be necessary to leave that on if they have no organized group at this time?
Well, do they
I mean,
have
they-
an organized group or don't they? I guess I haven't
They're
had
not
that.
here. We are allowing time from the day and they're not here.
Okay.
So do you wanna just have
Well-
sit down time at the meeting?
Well, I'm just taking for granted that, we told them they would, so if they're not gonna show up, then there probably isn't any need.
That's what I'm thinking as
But I
well.
would like to leave it on for at least in the short term to get wildlife and parks in. So whenever that's gonna be, in a week or two, after that, we can take it off.
Okay.
How's that sound?
As soon as Wildlife and Parks comes in and gives us this,
Unless we
Yeah,
hear.
presentation.
Yeah, unless we hear from whoever and they say, we really wanna be on.
if they wanna be on, then that's what I said. If they wanna
Okay.
be on, they can certainly
Okay, I'll
be
agree
on.
with you.
Okay. So we have a meeting of the minds here?
What I understand is that we're leaving it on until after we hear from Wildlife and Parks, and then you'll make a decision after that as whether to take it off or not.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Well, you added a little bit to that, but, cause he agreed that we would take it off after that unless the other group
Yeah.
said that they have a need for it.
Yeah.
If they're still an organized group.
Yeah, and we may hear from him yet. Mr. Pendergraft was here with us this morning.
He was
so-
here as an observer, he stated, yes.
So,
So I just hate wasting time at these meetings, like this, so.
Seems to be a waste of time if you just keep rambling on. Let's move on with
Randy,
Road Bridge.
you know what, we listen to your spiels week after week after week after week, and I have been courteous enough to let you finish your subject matter. Could I have the same privilege? So, you understand?
I don't think Tina has.
I'm confused now, I'm sorry. I thought I understood, but
Directive.
it's okay. It was a simple question. And I think that I'll just follow up with you before the next month to see where we are with it. But what I will do in the meantime is schedule KDWPT in here if
And
I
you'll
can.
put them on the agenda?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, that's how we schedule on the agenda. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we still haven't really settled it, but we'll leave it.
Sounds
Okay. So, Jesse?
All right. Go ahead and get started. Last week we talked about used wheel loader. I think you all have this copy. If you didn't bring it along, I just reprinted it. I did reach out to Barry Tractor and Murphy for Komatsu and John Deere. And then I just went ahead and just made out a spreadsheet to make it a little bit clearer
Oh,
of
thank
what
you.
each person has. I don't have one for you.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. I can get copies.
I just need one copy of that. Of course, they're not all the same, but, or like years and hours wise, but.
Did I hear you say at the last meeting you really went too crazy over the Komatsu? Was it, or was I?
We didn't have a great experience, and I don't think they left us a good piece of equipment. They probably could have chose a better piece of equipment than what they brought us. But one of the things that we weren't used to, they had hydrostat instead of a torque converter. So that's just something an operator would have to kind of get used to, just a different accelerator in a way on that. And then the other small minor deal was the view when they lift to dump material in a dump truck. The view was kind of blocked with their arms up in the air.
loader arms.
Yeah, loader arms. So that was kind of the two that the operators mentioned. And then, of course, there was just some bad things that were going on with that loader that they found out needed to have some work done to it after they had brought it to us. So that was unfortunate for them. But otherwise, it was a good machine, but it wasn't what the guys really preferred. Now, we do carry a Deere 544J, and we do carry a Volvo L90, and that's what we do have. We used to have an older Volvo and also an older Cat a few years back, so before we got this newer stuff. So
The 544K compared to the loader we have today as a Deere, what is size-wise?
that one is a 3-yard bucket. I do want to introduce. We have Jason Reardon down there at the end. He represents Murphy Tractor. Jeff Bender with Caterpillar Foley Equipment. Could you help me with that question?
So the K, they're the same size, and they're interchangeable as far as your attachments that you currently have too. They both have should have a 3-yard bucket on them with a coupler.
This one, the one that you have here, has it been out on demo or has it been?
It's a rental. It was put into our rental fleet and rented out to Missouri Department of Transportation for a year or two.
Okay.
Brought back.
Now, if you look at Murphy's on the back, Jason prepared kind of what the going rate is for some of these machines on machinerytrader.com. From 0 hours to 1,000 for a 544K, for auction price 121, retail 161. If you're looking at a 2,000 hour to 3,000 hours on a 930H, auction is 884, 250, and retail is 122. And then of course you did a 2,000 hour to 3,000 hour for a 544K 2011 model, running from 95 to 114. So really, all of them are running in the same. I mean, it just kind of shows that the prices aren't ridiculous compared to even for cat, fully, or deer and cat, that they're not jacking the prices up, or we're not, you know, they're not just robbing from us. So that was good to see. And then also on this spreadsheet here, it kind of gives you an idea. Now, I did estimated price of new because, of course, if we were go out to get bids, who knows? They might be higher, they might be lower. I don't know. But I just didn't want us to get us in trouble. Why not just spend a few other thousand to get a brand new one if that was the case? So.
I see.
As far as Caterpillar, that does come with bucket and forks, and if we did go with that, I would need those bucket and forks. Where's it at? Now their forks on Foley is a parallel lift. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Parallel lift. Do your guys have that, a parallel lift?
This one doesn't.
Okay.
This one does.
So,
It does not.
so I guess when you're taking your load up, it stays parallel with the ground with the forks. So they all are, from what I'm understanding, they all are out of the emissions where we're not have to worry about the DEF. So that's all pretty even throughout the three quotes here. They all carry a warranty. The Deere is a full warranty till 2020. Cat is 2 year, 500, and then of course Komatsu is 1 year. So now I think, you know, if you want me to go ahead and get one, it's just kind of deciding which one.
And what would your choice be on that, Jesse? I mean, looking at all the facts that you presented and everything you know and seen and what you know your needs are?
At first I thought it really, you look at it, the prices came down to Foley and Komatsu that I was comfortable with. But as far as what I had said earlier with Komatsu, it would come down to Foley and Murphy, John Deere and Caterpillar. With that being said, the price, I would have to go with Foley on that. Otherwise, if we're gonna go much higher, I think I'd rather just go out and do bids on brand new ones. I mean, and I really don't want a brand new machine. I just want something to go and grab and stick it in the trees and start moving tree removal and stuff like that. I don't know, but we're getting way newer and a lot less hours, so there's something, it's a toss-up.
Jesse, can I ask?
Yeah, yeah.
Just something. I'd like to ask Deere and Caterpillar, thank you for both showing up. Appreciate it, taking your time to be here today. And I think you prepared the estimated price on new. Is that government pricing over here, or is that what you'd
Yes.
sell it to to John Doe the farmer to?
The,
price?
well, for my estimated price, that would have been governmental. I actually bid one recently, and that was where it came in at, in McPherson County.
Okay, for your deer, this one come in at fall with 220, or no, just lately you said come in at 189.
189, yes, sir.
Jeff, your Caterpillar, he has estimated somewhere around 195. Have you sold any lately at government discount pricing?
I'd have to price a new machine out.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to price a new one out.
You guys got any questions? Go ahead.
Jesse, do we belong to that governmental pricing where you get 2% discount?
Are you talking NJPA?
Yep.
I've looked on the member list and I seen Marion County Lake Park and Lake is on it, but Road and Bridge isn't. And I'm trying to read up more on that and figure out exactly, maybe these two can help with that question, but no, we're not members as far as I know. And it's something I've been looking into, because I don't understand it well enough.
I know last week at our regional meeting, I was talking to Gary County, and they have been members and they get a 2% discount on any piece of equipment.
Mhm.
If I could, I'd recommend definitely joining, and to be honest on mine, the reason that I can put a full warranty on it out for a couple more years is because it was rented through a government agency and they were part of that. So in all honesty, I would need him to sign up in order to transfer that warranty over. It's free and it's easy. Harvey County's on it. I'm surprised you probably aren't somewhat quasi members because you have part of the county.
Yeah.
So if we were to sign up, we would be, or if we were to get this, to get that full warranty, we would have to be part of the NJPA? Is that what you just said? Okay. I wasn't aware of that, I'm sorry. On the full
Well, I
warranty.
can't understand why Park and Lake is signed up and not the whole county. That don't make sense.
Unless there's other things, I think there's,
Different.
There's probably other entities of your county that is signed up and members because they buy all kinds of stuff off the cooperatives, yes.
Well, I'd recommend that the Road and Bridge be part of that.
okay.
Well, and he's checking into it, right?
I'm just trying to understand it better.
Yeah.
I'm just not,
And is that correct? Is it a 2% discount?
But yes, and actually, what you don't necessarily have to go to bid is one of the things that equipment dealers, like if you're a Caterpillar fan or a John Deere fan, they've already done the bidding for you, and it takes some of the legwork out. So if Jesse comes and said, we want a Caterpillar 140 M3 motor grader, and you agree with it, then you can just buy it through NJPA and don't necessarily have to bid, and still be by governmental standards and whatnot.
The bid processing has already been completed, so that would be if you say you have to take it to bid, so it's already been bid, you're gonna get your discounts on top of that and your additional, what you're talking about, with 2% NJPA additional discount on top of that.
So could we sign up for that and then take a 2% off of whatever you've got listed?
Not unused ones.
Yeah, that's on new.
yeah, see, I think
It's
that's
only on new.
Yeah, it's only on new equipment, yes.
Okay. All right, that answers my question. I'm just gonna, 2% on that
Yeah.
was
Yep, 2%.
substantial.
But you're still gonna follow up on that and
Yes,
like, through other people and stuff, and
Yes.
I could get you some contacts that could probably really help you.
yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and
Good.
checking up on that. 'Cause
They say it's awesome, like he said, yes.
Yeah, there was a speaker, they're not a part of any of the dealers, they're a branch on their own, but I've got contacts that I can give to you all, so you can contact them and talk to them.
Well, I think what's happened here is I think Jeff happened to just notify Jesse, the way I understand it, you notified him of this loader here, but the commission asked to go out and call the other dealers to take of what they had on their market.
If I were not to, I'm sorry to interrupt there.
And so, it looks like if this Deere down here at the bottom, this 544K, had 2,300 hours on it, it would be back in the price, probably back down in price range, probably somewhat.
I would contend that it may be cheaper if you take the hours and the depreciation by hour, 2,000 hour difference is quite a bit.
Yeah.
I would say it would be worth more than $12,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 16 the way it looks, 121.
Or sorry, yes,
That
15.
second to last page
Oh.
shows
Oh, on the front there,
544K.
Okay, yeah.
At a
Okay.
2011 model.
Yeah.
That's 11 model. This is a 2015.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I see that.
and then, could I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead,
Jason,
Jesse.
if we were to choose, if the commissioners chose on the John Deere and we did not sign up for the NJPA, I know you said it's free, but if we didn't do that yet, what is the warranty on that?
Well, I would, Murphy Tractor would eat the difference. I would just ask you politely to sign, but if you didn't,
Okay.
you would still get it. Murphy would eat it, since I put it on paper.
It's a toss-up, commissioners. I mean, it's just what we want to spend. I got a budget for, all of this, whatever we decided there, so I can make it work anyway, so.
So having heard all this stuff, Jesse, now which way are you leaning? Would be I know you said it's a toss-up, but I'm just wondering what's going through your mind.
Well, I'm eliminating, right now, that's me eliminating the Komatsu right off the bat. And then we're going, we got 3-4 year difference, 938 full warranty.
Let me ask one more question.
Okay.
Before you get too far. Jeff, do you have any machines sitting out there with under 500 hours right now?
I would have to look, but I probably do in our rental fleet. The other thing with the 938 2011 with the fork option, the quick coupler, that's a updated, that's a Fusion quick coupler which is on our new wheel loaders. And the nice thing about that is that when you have the forks attached and you're going to stab something, the operator can look down through the quick coupler and see the front tip of the forks, so to see what he's going into. So that there is an added option as far as price point, and with the warranty, and with the other thing with that quick coupler, you get the Performance Series bucket. And me and Ryan have talked to Jesse and the guys about what that performs, and when you're loading the bucket with the new design, you're gonna burn less fuel and get a load quicker. Then the other thing, what's behind me is a big deal, is parts and service and uptime, things like that, so.
As we found out,
Do you have something to add to that?
Well, definitely, and I would note that on the spreadsheet, it shows Caterpillar with travel on the warranty, and my full warranty out till 2020. And it's a moving target every day that before you buy it. Right now, it was the beginning of November that it will run through. It's all trip charges and mileage are included in that too on warranty items. It's not noted. So, from a tip load, a John Deere can pick up more. And another thing we got to think about is you have a whole nother set of forks now sitting on your yard, so you have 2 forks to keep track of. And the Fusion coupler, no other brands can crosstalk with that. You can't fit other attachments on it, where this coupler on the John Deere is actually originally a Volvo design. It's called a high vis, and so any manufacturer can make attachments that fit on this coupler. And so you wouldn't necessarily, if you wanted to get down the road a bale spear, for example, you don't have to buy it from me. You could go out and buy it from anybody. Where if you buy it from the Fusion coupler, you have to buy it directly from Caterpillar.
That's interesting.
But we would, with the Cat, we get the forks.
Yes.
With the John Deere, we don't.
Yeah, and I hope our forks that we do have for our other John Deere fit up to.
They do,
Okay.
yes.
I was gonna say, do we have?
Yes.
Is that something we'd have to go out and buy then?
No. Does this come with the dirt bucket, the Deere?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That is another thing I kind of forgot about. I was going to mention. I think we have the 2 top competitors in the equipment industry there is right here this morning, and I don't have any experience at all really with John Deere, with parts and service. Parts and service with Caterpillar is just top notch, but I have that compared to with Volvo, and a few other things, but I have a Deere backhoe, Deere loader. I've never experienced their parts and service. All I know is if we're down, they're there that day. If they can't fix it that day or the next, another machine's coming right in behind us, so they can get that one worked on. Whether Deere can do that, I don't know, but I'm just saying it. I don't have them to compare to, so that's the downside of what I'm saying for Deere.
Well, I'd like to hear what you say.
Obviously, that parts and service is what differentiates both of us from the rest of the market, and that's both of what we have to go on. And so if we didn't have quality parts and service, he wouldn't have been able to say those statements, and we wouldn't have the reputation we do. The other thing I want to, I guess, piggyback on, if you do have a loader and you do have a backhoe and you don't have experience with our parts and service, that's probably a good thing. If it hasn't been down that much and you haven't had a ton of trouble with it.
Good point.
But if we went down, you'd have another machine there right there take its place.
If it's down for extended period of time, absolutely, we can do that. Generally, if something, and neither one of us have anything in writing to say we guarantee, a certain amount of time and we'll be there. Generally, if we don't have a truck within a day, within the second day for sure, I'd be shocked. If something's going to be down for an extended period of time, say over a week, we would absolutely have a loaner there for you. Those are things just based on experience. I've seen things where, absolutely we'd have a loader out the next day if somebody knows it's a big deal and there's something wrong. It's just all gray area. But I could sit here and say absolutely we'll be there in 24 hours. Absolutely we'll have a tractor to replace with, but it depends what's in the inventory at that time too.
Which I know Jesse is, and you guys have witnessed how we do and how we react to uptime. We do move that quick, and we've proven, and that's what we do. We have plenty of options in our rental fleet. You guys are in our wheelhouse as far as technicians, and far as that goes. So far as depending on what time of day you call is whether we can be here same day or next day.
I'd give the commission my feelings on this. Is the 481 hours threw me in another deal that category, because we're not up here in the same number of hours.
Right.
I think there's 2,000 hours difference, or almost 2,000 hours, if not that, at least 1,300 hours difference on Komatsu. But that's 3 to 4 years of operating. I don't know exactly what we put on a loader per year.
I was looking at it should be around 400 hours a year, but that's probably going to go down again if we get a third one in.
Well, you could.
So, something like that.
So it's one thing that the 15,000 difference or 16,000 difference, 4 years of operations. And if I'm buying a used car, I sort of look at the same thing the same way. So that sort of threw me in a different category. I will say I've had experience. I've been on commission and bought Deere. They have come in on bids. I think that's probably the reason why we went with a Deere loader, Deere loader and a Traco. Both of them come in a little bit under Caterpillar's price when we bid those, both new. But it just happened, and we took the low bid then, if I remember right. So.
And there's 4 years difference too from the Caterpillar to the John Deere.
Yeah.
So.
On commercial equipment, I'd rely more on the hours than the year, but
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Any more
do we
discussion?
have any more on this? Do you have anything else to add to it? Ken? Randy, do you have any other comments?
No, just it's throwing me in a different ballgame. If I'd seen a Deere down here with 20,000 or 2,000 hours on it, that would've got that somewhat down in there, but I can see from what his estimates is, that he's gonna do it if he had one like in that price range, so.
So I'm hearing kind of like a Nadir option.
Well, it's looking pretty favorable to me and just due to this $15,000 difference for 2,000, well, on that model, if I go to Caterpillar, it's 2,000, well, it's $1,800 difference.
Yes.
That's 4 years of operating. So that's, I guess that's about the point, because I know either one of them has serviced both of Marion County well. We've had a lot of experience with Caterpillar because we was a Caterpillar fleet for quite a while. And I know our mechanic likes to work on Caterpillars, and but that's just Tom. He likes to work on Caterpillars, so. Yeah.
So do you want to move on with it then, or?
If nobody has anything else.
I have nothing else. Can you
No,
see
no.
nothing else? You want to go ahead and make a motion there, Randy?
I would make a motion to go with John Deere for the loader of price of $137,890 based on $15,000 difference for 4 years, for $1,800 difference. That's why I made the motion to go that way.
Have a
Otherwise,
motion,
it would be a Caterpillar dealer.
have a motion to accept the proposal from John Deere for the 544K model. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. John Deere.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, bud.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jason,
Good to
thank
meet you.
you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did you want to take a copy of all these? Or-
No, I'll just, that summary is fine.
Okay.
What else you got, Jesse?
That, as of right now, is all I have. Yeah,
That's all you have?
right now, yeah.
Okay.
You guys have any questions for me, anything?
The only thing that I might mention is on that, I seen that they have the Walter Rock, I think, went a mile down that 330th, that limestone road north of
Okay.
330th. I noticed that it's washboard board, it's pretty heavy at some spots.
Okay.
Do you think, I know some places, at the very beginning, it's rough. When he's in the area, when he gets a chance, I'm not saying make a special trip out there or anything like that, I'm just saying,
Okay.
if he goes in that area, we might have him just
Touch it up.
touch it up.
Is the
Okay.
road completely done?
The 1 mile, I believe what she's talking about, limestone, is done. And we're moving over to Pawnee, going north of 330th for 1 mile, because I said that we'd do 2 miles in each one of your districts with a harder rock.
What do you see so far?
I see, it looks good to me.
Okay.
I did go up and look, and I did take pictures of the rock before they spread it out and after they spread it out and so on. I think it looks nice.
Okay.
I'm pleased with it. I haven't heard anything negative
Okay.
so far.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, ready?
No,
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
except for road maintenance agreement, that's coming up. Are you gonna be here? Or, I don't know, what they on here for, trade union?
I think they're wanting to just talk to you guys. I don't know what they're here for, to tell you the
Okay.
truth.
You guys had a meeting last week?
Wednesday, and then we have one, all the same group, Thursday
Okay.
again. And I think we're hoping to finalize those agreements and then bring it to the board to sign off on if they
So
agree.
this might just be an update.
Might be,
Okay.
so.
All right.
Sound good?
Okay, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're 20 minutes ahead of schedule.
Thank you.
So, I don't know that Bud's out there, otherwise we could take another 20-minute recess.
Well, either that or we can go to the,
Well, Bud's not out there, I don't see him. He might be out there, but I'm not seeing him.
okay.
Did you want to do anything on the county
I
council?
was gonna say, county councilor bid review.
Well, we looked at him, I was hoping
Yeah.
to take him home and look at him, study him a little bit. Did you,
Down the hall.
I'm sorry?
Bud and Dublin, they're both out there.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so you don't want to take any action today. You want to table that and bring it back?
Yeah, I need
Okay.
to study that and push a pencil to some of those proposals and stuff.
Okay.
We're ahead of schedule.
Okay.
Come on in.
Come on in, bud.
Well, it's not my turn.
How are you?
Fine. You want me now?
I want you now. If you're ready.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
I need to have my annual weed report and weed management plan signed so I can get it sent to KDA. You've got it in your packets, I think. The only change to the weed management plan is changing the 2018 and going from monthly meetings to quarterly meetings, and the weed director and one full-time person at this time. That's all I have in the management plan. And then the weed eradication progress report for 2017 is all in the packet too. And that needs to be signed.
Do those need to be approved officially, don't they, and signed? I believe the weed management plan needs
Yeah,
to be
it-
adopted
it-
through a motion of a vote.
Yes,
What about the progress report?
That's just something that KDA just requires.
This weed eradication.
That's the weed eradication report. Tells how much chemical was bought, spent, how much we bought, how much was purchased by the public, what we used, you know, how many weeds are in the county, what we think they are and everything, so. Yeah, I think it needs to be, both of them probably need to be approved, so.
Why? You still studying that a little bit?
No, good.
Okay. See, I think I have a copy of that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, do you have that on the computer? Are you looking at this? This is,
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
okay. Okay, so we need to make a motion for that?
For the annual management plan, you definitely need a motion and a vote to adopt that.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'd make that motion to adopt the annual weed management report.
Okay, I have a motion on the table to adopt the 2018 annual noxious weed management plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And you said on this other one, we don't necessarily need to make a motion on this right here. This is the eradication progress report. Just sign it.
I believe if you just sign it as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's all.
All right.
I had one question, but
Okay.
on the, under the noxious weed treatment for Sarisa,
Oh, in the management plan?
yeah,
Yeah, on private,
on private land.
okay.
You know, there's been a lot of studies done by K-State that say that, you know, spraying it doesn't do much good.
Spraying?
Yeah, they're K-State's now saying you need, or trying to do fall burns
Yes,
on that.
yes.
So I mean,
I've had some people that say they're gonna try it, but nobody around here has done it. Some of the other weed directors have had it done in their counties, but there's no report back to me yet on how it's working because they just started doing it last fall.
yeah,
And as far as,
I'm just wondering if that's a waste of chemical.
no, not yet. Everything I've sprayed with Sarisa with is the Remedy or the Escort XP. It's killed it.
I know the farmers up in my area,
Yeah.
they use it and they spray it and they
Yeah.
have results.
I mean, my biggest problem is getting the people with the CRP to do anything, you know. And I finally found out that I have control over the government too. If
Right.
Instead of them having the control, no. The weed director has control over them, and if I tell them that they need to get it taken care of, then they need to get it taken care of. So instead of just saying, oh, there's only 5 acres, we ain't gonna spray that, it ain't worth it, you know. So, but no, everything that Teresa, that I've sprayed, it's eradicated.
Yeah, I think it was more to do with the seed.
Let's see.
Well,
The seed, killing the seed. You know,
Yes.
you can kill the plant, but one
See,
plant has like hundreds of thousands
oh,
of
yeah,
seeds.
yeah.
I think that's why the fall burn study was gonna be pretty important.
And see, if it starts to bloom and you spray it with Escort, that sterilizes the flower, and it won't produce a seed. It'll do the same thing on musk thistle too, the Escort. So,
That's what I
but
know.
yeah, I'm still looking into that too, about getting it burnt, because I've got one place that, I don't know, it's 160 acres and nothing but Teresa, probably this year now.
I missed one.
Well, everybody's
that.
been neglecting to do anything.
No, you missed this one.
So, this year it isn't gonna be neglected, they're either gonna take care of it, or
Sorry.
I'll go in and spray it and charge them. So,
Sure does spread, doesn't it?
oh,
The birds or whatever it
The
is,
deer.
in pastures that never
deer,
even
the
happens.
cattle, the hay, if somebody puts it up
Yes.
for hay and it's seeded out, any place they string out a bale, it's gonna have seeds.
Yep.
Then they're gonna have a nice strip of cerisa there the next spring.
Mhm.
So, anyway,
That's what I was wondering, what the fall burn does to the grass. I mean, that's something that,
they say that it comes back. Like I said, I've been introduced to it last July is when we had a K-State guy at one of our meetings and explained it to us, and he's been experimenting with it for
I
a year or
remember
two before.
seeing last fall a big article about it, where there was some, I think maybe it was in Wabaunsee County or something, they had several that had done a fall burn on that. Of course, you know, it depends on the year too. Some years, I guess if you had a wet year, 'cause stuff's pretty green.
Mhm.
You know.
So, anyway, this is the main thing I want to get done today,
Okay.
and then I'll be here for the transfer station meeting when it comes up, so.
10:40.
Yep.
That's everything for you then? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Do you have anything else?
I've got other things, but I don't want to take up any more if somebody else needs to get in
We
here.
got plenty of time. If you have something else, this is the good time.
I didn't bring any of my other stuff because I wasn't going to do anything, you know, because I knew I was going to do this, and then, we had a discussion a couple weeks ago about going in and spraying private ground for enforcement. Is that still going to be allowed? That I can go in and spray if I need to?
don't you have to go through the steps?
Well, I gotta go through the steps, but
But then-
after the steps
Yeah.
have gone through, I can take the county equipment in and spray what needs to be sprayed.
I'm sure that's
As long
the
as
way I
there's
see it,
guidelines,
yes.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
guidelines, what you
Yeah.
can do, but.
Yeah.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
And you still
Is it?
do not want to be hired out if somebody wants me to go in and spray for them. You don't
One
want
thing
to.
that we may need to check.
Enforcement only.
One
Okay.
thing that we may need to check on, and maybe it's not a problem, but we do have a new insurance carrier. Do we need to check on liability?
Yeah,
Um,
I
well-
would think that would be one thing, yeah, just to cover, yeah.
Liability as to what?
We're on somebody's private property.
No, I understand that, but I
Right.
mean, are you talking about destroying the grass? Are you talking about what?
Well, there could be instances of, you know, what if we went in there and we drove over a water valve or something that we didn't see in the weeds or something like that?
Yeah.
Liability.
Well, it doesn't hurt to check. I don't,
Well, I think we have to. We have a new carrier, you know.
Maybe they overlooked it, I mean, in some of the stuff when they was doing that, so.
But other than that, once we get through the insurance and you.
Right.
enforce
I will
it,
check everything
Sure.
out and make sure. I mean, it's gonna be a while before I have to go out there, I hope.
I think enforcement is necessary. I mean, you gotta get some of these people to get on it, because it's not
Right.
fair to the neighbors.
I know.
That do take care of their properties.
Well, I noticed in Friday's legislature thing that I got the email on where they've got the weed law in legislature right now, and they're making some changes in the wording if it passes. So that's gonna be a big thing there that nobody's gonna be able to say no.
Good.
So
It's
if
about
it's,
time.
if it's declared noxious weed, it will be taken care of either by them or by us. So,
Well, good job.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
And then I have another report. I don't have a resolution yet, but the cost share program last year, we lowered it down, and I had real good turnout with that. I mean, nobody over abused it and nothing, so I would like to keep it that way again this year, and I'll get a resolution to you next time I come to meet with you and stuff on that.
Okay.
And then my other stuff is to do with transfer station after transfer station, so.
Transfer after
Okay.
transfer after transfer.
Is Bruce out there?
Three times, so.
Is-
That's one more question. When someone comes in to buy the chemical, do they have to produce a applicator license?
If it's for the Tordon 22K, which is the only restricted use product that we sell, they either produce it or we have access to it on the computer. The state provides us access to that, and with our STAR program, it's put in there automatically, well, not automatically, but it's usually updated if they have a license. And now, there are certain dicamba mixtures that has gone to restricted use too. So, and I'm not gonna handle any of those, because if we handled it, then we'd have to go get educated and licensed for that too. As long as we don't sell it, we don't have to. But I can still sell the original dicamba to whoever wants it. But if it's one of the three mixtures that the state has come up with, well, then they have to be certified, licensed for that. But no, usually it's just the Tordon is what they have to have a license for. So anything else, they don't need it for. So
Any other questions, Kate? Randy, any other questions? Anything else?
I'm pretty well done.
Well, is Bruce out there? See if we might need the extra time with him anyway.
I don't know if he's here or not.
He's usually pretty punctual to his time.
Yeah.
The way he's been in the past.
Yeah.
Not see Bruce.
Yeah, he probably won't be there, so.
You have Doug here. Doug, how long
What's that?
How long a promotion, or what you here for today for? You talked to us the other day about the project, but do you have something else to add today?
No, I'm just kind of curious as to what's going on and how your meeting went, but I'm just,
Okay.
Observing today?
well, I was scheduled to talk, I guess, at 12 now, so.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you want to come ahead, but if.
Yeah,
no,
I can, I mean,
that's-
I was kind of wanting to see how the meeting, what other developments.
Well, probably ought to wait then till
Come in.
afterwards.
Okay, so, let's see, so we really have nothing else until Bruce shows up. I don't see whether there's anything else that we can move ahead on. So I suppose we could have another 10-minute break.
10 minutes?
10 minutes. I'm ready whenever you're ready.
Okay, very good then.
All right.
We are hooking up. I've got I saved it as a PDF, and you have a handout in front of you. If you see the colored one, everything's combined within that, and then you have 11 by 17s that are loose attachments. They have a little bit more detail. It's easier to see 11 by 17s. So as soon as I get this computer up and running, I'll go through the quick little presentation, and then we can get into the details as I'm sure it comes down to the funding and what kind of improvements come along with each funding. So, well, seems to have to think a lot there.
Sure. Put it down on this. It'll be on there too.
Commission meetings, today's final presentation. All right. So as you see, as this goes through here, why is this not showing up there? All right. So, things we have today for an evaluation, Washington Street and Road 180 are the two options I'm presenting or having a discussion on. We have other information if needed. We've been looking more of a 100 by 100 building, but when I left the meeting, last Thursday it was, there was some discussion over, well, if you're doing it, it's not much trouble, just add in the 100 by 80 and we can still have that discussion. So I didn't want to over encumber you with all the information by trying to separate it, but we have it in there for the 100 by 80 too. Discussion items. One of the things that was asked is what are the pluses and minuses to each of these locations. We try to list them out here so we can obviously round back to this once we start looking at costs and improvements, but these are the items that I saw that were at least discussion points, and you could say pros or cons with each one of them. As you see, land availability, the size of the site, earthwork, location and access, utilities, the zoning, permitting, schedule, and then project costs. I may be missing something else out in there, but when you look at each location, you could give a comment on each one of those, or multiple. So wanted to have those there for discussion, and we can round back to sheet number 3 if needed. Concept images. This is something that we have worked up already for the Washington Street improvement. The reason I left them in here is just so that folks can get an idea, just the building. This is the Washington Street if it would be developed as such, so you can see that, but just to understand the 100 by 100 building and what kind of improvements come with it. This is probably one of the best renderings of it, so you can just see the access for the public, regular vehicles pulling up, the large door, the shorter door, there'd be the scale house room, the ticket, and then the office off to the side, scales here. But just so you can gather the size of it, the positive influence. And there's a side from the side view. There's quite a bit of elevation difference, and you need that at any site. Target dates, just be mindful of that. Some of the things we were looking at and trying to accomplish. And then it really gets into the meat and potatoes of it. Just to reference back, the 100 by 100 shows the public access up here. 2 stalls, large 30-foot opening door, and then a smaller door opening for recycling. This would be a permanent push wall here. This would be temporary. Recycling would be back around this side, and the semi-truck to transfer the solid waste would be here. The intent and concept of this is, as the public comes up, you have a front-end loader and queue here, so as the public drops, it would be a minimum 2-foot, probably 3-foot drop over, and then it's a direct push into the transfer into the semi-truck. Larger trucks as they come, the large tractor front-end loader moves to the side. They come in and dump on the tipping floor here, and then you can push the trash in. You would store recycling here for a week to 2 weeks, and then move these temporary barriers and then be able to push in as needed. And when you look at site design, we put a garage door on this side so that you could have some storage, a man door on this side so you can have a storage over here. We are showing something in the corner, and obviously we can make things work as needed, shorten it a lot wider. We wanted some type of air gap between the office and the tipping floor, just to make sure that it's an office environment that you can have controlled HVAC in. So there's the 100 by 100. Here's 100 by 80. As you see, the things that are missing is just the bottom half there with, call it kind of a recycling drop off, or the secondary door. So a little smaller footprint in 100 by 80. And then we move on here to the north location. So this is the 100 by 100, as you see that how it lays out. This is with the contours. So this is a pre-development type drawing. The scale would be down here, the office, the scale house, the building itself. on how it lays out within the facility. The dark, when you see the cost estimates, that's going to be one of the differences. The dark right here is actually pavement, so the rest of the light gray is going to be gravel. There had been some discussion about this access here coming back to the farmer in the back. Obviously, we can shorten that up and round that out so there's dual access, and we can bring the fence inside of it. Or quite frankly, we can just run the fence right in through here and then have a gate. So we'll make those appropriations as
And those have
necessary.
been adjusted in those concept images. We've brought the fence in, so we're not enclosing all of that space.
So we'll be accommodating. And so then we also left on here the 80. So you can see a little bit smaller footprint. Just basically the building stays in about the same spot. You just shorten up the south wall. Then we looked into the north location, or excuse me, the road 180, the south location. North is to the left on the sheet. It's maybe a little harder to see, but Road and Bridge has a couple shops out here where they do some repair work. There's been some material that's been deposited out here, and there's some culverts stored out in this area and such, so it kind of refer to it as boneyard, if you will. So where Road and Bridge keeps some of their equipment and their material supplies. What we're looking at is right west of that. There's quite a bit of elevation drop right in here, and I'll zoom in. The next one here is a little bit more of a zoomed in area, so you can see the two sites. And these are contours. These are 1 foot contours from LiDAR, so it's actually flown. So it's relatively accurate, but not accurate enough for design work, but it gives you an idea about just the contours. When contours are very tight, that's very steep. As you see, it's very tight right there. The contours are very close to each other, so it's a steep vertical wall. As they expand here, that's 1 foot drop, as you see the scale here. So it's approximately 1 foot every 20 feet, something in that nature. So it's relatively smooth, if you will. We're showing the scales here. There probably have to be some, there will have to be some earthwork done. Scales need to be flat. You need to bring vehicles up on a plateau, bring them across, bring them back down, and then come back up again. But this is the 100 by 100 building here, and we zoomed in on that one. Obviously, you'll see I don't have it zoomed in at 100 by 80, but it'd be very similar. You're just losing this bay here.
In terms of the building itself, we're utilizing the same layout as what we've shown on the previous site. The only exception being we basically mirrored the building to allow for the truck access point based on the site.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the 100 foot and the 80 foot have all the same components.
The only thing I could see possibly difference is I would like to see, if this was a possible site that would have, that everything stays on this side. The road that you have along around there is just the road that we went out, but I would like to possibly make it a U-turn up there and come like that.
We probably can. We may need to discuss then amount, the acreage, just needed to make sure we make turning radiuses, but we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be the only difference that I'd see.
I think the space that's located back behind here
Yeah, I'm hoping
is
that,
perfect area for that.
I'm
kind of
hoping to
turnaround.
get enough, right. Mhm.
And I think, allows some other flexibility, some other options.
Yeah.
We can talk about it a little bit more in detail, but I think that certainly allows.
You guys were with me on, understand what I asked them?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes, you understand.
Yeah. So yeah, we just showed this as coming out, just a rendition. There's another, we're only showing this as an area here. Obviously, this slopes down. We could bring the semis in coming down that location too. So there's quite a few more things that need vetted out. There's a zoomed in, and there's the 80. As you see, it's just the size of the building. And then you get down to what the cost estimates are. You do have an 8.5 by 11 in here, but in the packet I gave you a 11 by 17, so it's maybe a little easier to see some of the bigger numbers. The details of the numbers are in the next ones. So what we did, option A and E, those are two options that you've seen before. That's basically at the Washington Street. The first one's the 100 by 100 with the pavement, and E is Washington Street 80 by 100 with the pavement. So those are the options you've seen before, and so I think what I left the meeting last Thursday with is we're willing to consider the Road 180, but we want to see apples to apples. So what we tried to do is give you a straight comparison and what's the cost differences and such. So as you see there, and on the right, I did some a little bit of math subtraction from some options.
you may want to do your own if A versus F is more important to you, or C versus H, those type of things. I don't necessarily have those all listed out, but that gives you some idea of what some of the cost differences are. I flip on to the next one, and I don't know how far into the weeds the commission would like to go, but this is the cost estimate for Washington Street 100 by 100, and I think I call them full. So when I say full or partial or reduced, partial reduced means gravel, pavement versus gravel, full versus reduced. I tried to color code them. Maybe I did a good job, maybe I didn't with color coding. But you see the green, the next one down is green with a gray stripe on top, so that means gravel. And so that's basically the same as all of them. I tried to give them all a base color, and then when you evaluate it compared to gravel, I tried to put a gray strip at the top. And when I did do a change comparison, if you see the green with the gray, the two items that are highlighted there in gray, that's the difference from the green. So I'll zoom in here a little bit. So I'm showing pavement of 1,820 square yards, 9,390 square yards of gravel. When I move on to the next one, it's 450 and 10,760. So I try to highlight what the differences are so you can kind of see where we made the comparison and what the cost differences are. The next one here is Road C, the 100 by 100. As you see there, the 4,000 cubic yards of imported fill, quite a bit less than the other site. That's a major cost difference. Gravel surfacing, and that's one of those, 12,000. If we graveled the entire circle that we showed on the sheet, probably a little bit more than that. One of the reasons we didn't, it's already an improved roadway. If you're wanting to bring it on the site itself, maybe that number's even reduced itself if we don't actually get over to road and bridge. So, but that's an appropriate number for right now. Some of the things to look at here, items 6 through 13, that's the utilities, and so that's part of the discussion on what are the pros and cons. What we're showing here is a grinder pump. We talked about putting a tank in, and I could save some dollars on it, but by the time you look at long-term with having to have it hauled, pumped out and hauled, I think it pays for itself within 10 years. And I think this is what you're determining to be a longer-term facility. With this, it's you'd have pumps that probably need to be maintained, but other than that, it's a better long-term solution in my opinion. If you'd like something a little less expensive or go with the tank option, you start just looking at those numbers up there, you're cutting about 100,000 off of it if you so choose. And that you could go with the tank option, but we're showing you the grinder pump. So basically what we're showing is a structure ahead of the pump system. So it's a bar screen. It's going to have to be a manual rake. So you start putting in an automatic rake, you're talking 6 figures for a bar screen rake. So this is a manual rake, but this is a bar screen, aluminum. You got to get in, pull out all the. We just don't want to burn the pumps up, so we don't want anything clogging them. So you mainly, and then you throw it into the dumpster, and then it gets hauled off at the transfer station there. Then it goes into a grinder, and then a 2-inch force main runs over the lagoons and then dumps in there. So that's why you're seeing the 3,000 linear foot force main. And then the water, right now we're considering it dropping a well out at the site, and you're running like you would a residential house out on the site. We might be able to have something a little bit more industrial, but same type of concept. So you're having one of those pressure tanks when someone drops a well. Okay. Permanent fence is a little bit less. Sliding gates. Let's see what else I have on here. You wouldn't need as much structural concrete wall. One of the things you see down here also, items 31, 32. Those were placeholders at the other location, so the existing transfer station needs to be cleaned if you're going to decommission. And then we talked about demoing it. As of right now, the location, this 180th location floodplain, it will be a concern, and so you have to have an alternative site. So therefore, I'm saying we're not demoing the site as of right now. With it, it's your backup if there would ever be a flood. So I took the 75,000 and then, I forget how much the other one was, 22,000. So it's about 100,000 itself for decommissioning the existing one. So I'm saying that's a savings. in the future, it probably will be a cost, but you, until we do some type of roadway improvement to take it out of the floodplain, you need some type of alternate site or alternate plan. And the alternate plan could be another site in the county, or even out of county if you wanted to direct haul or whatever options you have, but it's a cost savings. One of the things we did also at the Road 180, I increased the contingency from 10% up to 5%. And then with design and engineering, I just wanted to be upfront that we kept the number about the 280 and above, just with design fees and what we saw happening along there. So at the other site, we had that vetted out. I think we left it at 8%. With this site, I think we have between 9.5% with that design work in there. So just be open and upfront with you. Let me see what other. So that is the. That's with the pavement. So then when you go with the gravel, as you see, I still had the same highlights. I just showed the gray being the gravel, what changed from the orange to the orange and gray. And it's basically those grays right up front. Okay. Then we move on to Washington Street, 80 by 100. And then we go with the gray. Then we go with the Road 180, 80 by 100. And then also that with the gray. So you can kind of see some of the detail in there. Where you see a lot of the cost savings at is the cubic yard of fill. At $15 a cubic yard, we're going from 53,000 down to 4,000. And where you see another significant savings is in the pavement. We did leave, just to have that discussion with you so you can, in your mind's eye, I left 450 square yards of pavement, so that'd be approximately 30 feet in front of the building itself. So the width of the building by 30 feet. Now obviously I kept the same number when the building got a little smaller, plus or minus in there. I just left the 450 square yards. Wanted to be able, so when the public pulls up the drop off through I want them to park on pavement, not gravel, so when you're getting out. Also when you're going into the building itself, if you don't maintain the gravel, you get some impact, and I don't want to beat the floor up right there. I want the pavement out front to take the beating. It's easier to maintain and replace than it is out on the tipping floor. So we're trying to keep that
There
pavement.
wasn't very much. Was there any at Osage City? I was gonna say there's none there. is there? Yeah.
It's just gravel right there.
It's all gravel up to it. So even that number can be reduced if you'd like that. That's one I left in.
But it's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Quite a bit less. In the perimeter fence, we got a little smaller on there. That's something else that we probably need to sit and talk with commission about, of really what do we want to put a perimeter around and be able to lock down or keep the public out of. Really, that's about it for right now. We did talk internally a little bit about do we leave the building as we have shown there? Do we skew it a little bit? Is there a different angle to bring in? But right now we left it as is. That can be other discussion points, but there probably would be more fill material and maybe probably a higher cost if we skewed it a little bit instead of had it right on the edge like it should. So there's some other rocks we could turn over, but I think this gives you a good feel, a good understanding of what really I believe the comparisons are. So.
Let's see. Do you have any questions? Ken? Randy?
No, the one out there that you showed the drawings where the bigger ones are closer to the pit seems to be from Harvey County, where I've heard that. Harvey County, some your bigger trucks and your most trash. Of course, they've got more bigger trucks than we do, in dumps there, to where you push through that. Just, you don't have to push it clear across the floor, closer to the pit.
Flip that around.
Yeah, that seemed to be their Rollins, really. Rollins run Marion County for I don't know how many years, and that was one of his suggestions. So he said this is a lot easier than what we did over there. So, but we're pushing podcasts, they're pushing with backhoes too. So.
They got a lot more room than we do.
Yeah, they got a lot more room. Yeah.
So I have a question that goes a little bit off the design of the new building. On the existing building that we have right now, if we were to go to the 180th the South Shaw
Okay.
location, and we need to maintain a second location, you suggested maintain this one. What would we do as far as, or how feasible would you say it would be, since the floor is in such bad shape? What do you think about putting the 1-inch steel plate down across that to distribute the weight? And maybe a slurry or something on top of it to firm it up some? Would that be anything to consider? Do you think that would help it, or, I mean, I've heard this brought to me and questioned it, and I'm just wondering, from your standpoint, what you think of something like that?
My concern is, if we could have put a seal on it 30 years ago, I definitely recommend it. What I'm worried about now is it's taken the abuse and it's taken the leachate over this time. To really be able to tell you that it'd be a long-term fix, I would rather get down underneath, fill it up so there's no void underneath that. You might be able to, without doing destructive testing, I won't know what I want to say, the viability of the concrete structure itself. That's the floor. It's actually a structural floor. Without doing destructive testing, I would hesitate to tell you yes to move forward with that. The simple fix, or that I know as a civil engineer, is start over from new. It's been used. It's used its useful life. Remove it, build it back up, and put a solid floor on it. That could be an alternative, but we'd need to do some destructive testing, which is core sampling,
I see.
just to see if the components of the concrete, if they've weakened, and you can actually take pieces out and crush them. Is it 4,000 psi or is it only 2,000 psi concrete now? Those type of things.
One of the bigger concerns when we reviewed it was also the status of the foundations below the floor, not specifically just the floor above, but what was happening below. I think if we put a topping or anything on top, it's not going to address the issues that are at the low level. So that's where I would have some concern.
So you're saying the concern there is the foundation
I think
on
that's
the
part
bottom,
of
rather
the
than
issue.
the floor?
Yeah,
Right, we're
because
seeing some
they've seen
separation.
some changes over the years.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't want to forget about that. The condition of the top is an issue, but the foundations are as well. So
I see, okay, okay. Thank
Plus,
you.
you'd be adding a lot of weight if you
That's
went in there.
It need to be evaluated, yeah, before you, half-inch
Okay.
steel would be,
Yeah. Well, I was just asked that question. I said, well, I'll just
sure.
ask the engineers what they think about that. Because if it would be something viable, or
it could certainly be a
something-
part of the remediation for the tipping floor, but I think we also have to address what's happening below.
on the foundation.
Correct.
And to give some, we also, our current solution to that site is actually to demo and then fill it back in with a retaining wall and then put a top on top of it again, of a pavement. One of the other things that was discussed is actually coming in with structural steel underneath and supporting it.
Right.
And when we started looking at that, you're getting about the same cost as the demo and the flowable fill in the top, but you still have that void and you still have a structural component that someday will be fatigued again and need to be replaced. So that was why we went with a more of a long-term than the
Right.
steel.
Okay. Okay, thank you. No questions?
Not about that.
Oh, well, you have another question?
No, I'm fine with what you've got here is just, there is, the dirt work is a major issue with the south, or the north area, the Washington Street area. It's a lot of money there, and then the impact of well, there's a gentleman said, you know. But the impact period on what we do down there too is considered. So it's changing the whole area, changing water drainage. What if we do get into a water drainage problem? And that causes a lot, that we caused. So that, and the landowner there beside us, Doug, says, you know, he don't want to, he made it quite clear Thursday night that he don't want to go to the city, and then say that's the county, and then the county said, no, that's the city's. So he don't want to hassle when he does have a problem of that, so it's considerable.
One of the things we will do, say in the city of Lawrence, they have stormwater ordinances, so we're working with Briggs, the auto dealer, and if you would add on a building, you'd have to do stormwater detention. If there would be a greenfield site or virgin site that had grass, and then you're gonna put a structure or pavement over it. And so then you have to do improvements and run stormwater calculations that you're not discharging more afterwards, so you're gonna be discharging the same amount of runoff before and after the improvement. So those are things we could take into account with this. And basically you can put when you deal in Kansas City, you put them underneath parking lots. More in rural Kansas, we're putting little detention cells out there, and basically it catches the water before it runs off site, and then it's metered off, so that the actual discharge is very similar to what the existing was.
Tabor College just did it at that new addition over there on the west side, that big long roof that they were talking about that we heard when we went through our tour, the detention pond, and there's one on the west side over there that catches it. Because what is the general rule, once you put a building and things and cement on a acre, do you have a rate that you figure once you've done that you have to catch that somewhere?
Yes.
Because that's gonna soak if it was left virgin ground. But now you've got a roof and you've got building, you've got pavement, it's going somewhere. It's gonna go on somebody, so there has to be.
That's correct. So that even grass can become super saturated if you had a week of rain and then you had another inch of rain.
Yeah.
But typically you go from a permeable site, so grass or plowed field, down to pavement, which is impermeable. There are different ratios. We also use gravel, has a different one, but it does soak in some water, but typically it's almost equivalent.
Did you, we had discussed about core sampling some of the land out there. I think it's called core. Did you include that in the price here?
No. That would be,
Geotechnical?
yes, I'm sorry, I guess it is.
Yeah.
So there is a line item for that on there.
It's indicated as geotechnical engineering, and so that would be covered.
If you go,
Technical engineering.
It's below the line.
Down here, okay,
Yeah.
I see it right here.
I apologize, yes it is.
Okay. And you said that takes several weeks to get those results back, is that what I remember?
Yes.
Typically,
Okay.
just depends on how busy. So,
Yeah, I'd say a typical would be a 4 to 5 week turnaround. You might be able to turn around in 2 weeks if it was a rush. I may not have enough dollars in there for a 2 week, that type of thing. It depends on if you want an RF, if you would want proposals. If not, if you contracted with a direct geotechnical firm, it goes a little faster than asking for 3 proposals from 3 different ones.
So before we would move forward and actually say, yes, we want to do it at this location, we should have those results back. Am I correct?
It would
I
always
think
be
we will.
recommended.
It'll certainly help to hammer out the costs.
Okay. Okay.
If there hadn't been a rock quarry right there for some time, it wouldn't probably be an issue, but there
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah,
Who knows what's.
very well could be. Who knows under it.
If it had been, let's say if the core samples come back, that it's loose ground, what's the solution then?
It'll just be a different type of foundation would be required. Probably have to pour a mat below the foundation.
footings.
So, yeah. There's certain ways to remedy that.
Okay.
Right now, our assumptions are that it's a fairly standard site,
Right.
so we're not escalating our cost, anticipating a lot of additional.
But
So that would just
assuming,
verify.
just off the top of your head, not holding you to it, if something like that were to happen, would that, just off the top of your head, would that be an expensive change, or would it be something?
In terms of maybe the concrete number, we may be looking at an escalation of maybe 10 to 15%, just in the concrete number, not overall. But it's something that it would be a nominal increase.
Okay.
Not something that would, I would say, change the effective cost of one site versus the other.
25 to 50,000.
Yeah, somewhere I think that would be about where I would anticipate it, yeah.
I can see what you're talking about, with footings and,
Yeah.
Or drilled shaft.
or drill shaft or something.
It depends on if it was compacted backfill. That'd be my biggest, I just don't want differential settlement.
Right.
And were we including any type of, land purchase in this? We don't know what that land expense would be, do we? We have no idea at this point, am I right?
Right, I just got a figure in my head, but I have nothing, I don't see nothing.
I did not have that, no.
Okay.
That would be, I
And
mean,
based on your pictures, I know Randy was saying 7 acres approximately. Based on your pictures, is that about what you would say as well, or what are you looking at here as
The
far
only
as?
thing that I had was
land?
a little more, Diane, was if it went clear to the outside edge of that.
Right. Here we go.
It goes down
So,
there
would
to
you
that.
say it would be about, do you have an idea roughly? I'm sure you do.
well, I was gonna say, my honest opinion is if you're gonna ask for property in 7 acres and being that, there's some, we're already going next to a county location, would need to work with the landowner, but ask for minimum of the 7, see if there's an option, get an extra 50. If you think you need 200 foot wide, ask for 250 foot wide, just for the fact that we need to put some pre-development to this and have some look at it. Now, granted, if it's premium ground or there's some things are kind of funny about there used to be a homestead there and maybe that doesn't want to be sold off, we'll definitely move that around and miss certain things. So, but I think the 7 acres is a good start. I'm always a little bit more cautious, and I tell you, look, ask for 10, and if you have to settle for 7, go with 7. But that's probably something maybe we need to vet out with you if you're willing to move forward at that point.
I see. So there's kind of still a little uncertainty with this, a little bit more information
There's
to
certainly
gather on this,
information.
yeah. I see, okay. Well, it certainly is, you've done a lot of work here over the weekend, didn't you?
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of information here.
They didn't know anything about the Super Bowl, they didn't even tell, they didn't even know who won.
Who won?
There was a game, yeah.
The winner. Oh, okay.
Well, let's see. So you have anything from last time here, Kent? I asked you before, I don't know if you come up with any ideas or thoughts
Not as far as
as the plan is.
layout or plan.
Okay.
I have some other issues.
Concerning afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Randy, you have anything about the plan or the work
No,
that you've done?
no, I want
Comparison?
to thank you guys, you know, and I think Kent's concern last week were under the gun and timeline and stuff like that, and so you guys performed very well for.
Yeah, we appreciate you working with us.
Absolutely.
With those kind of time constraints,
Yeah.
that's above and beyond the call.
Yeah.
It's a lot to look at here.
Yes, there
A
is.
lot to think about, and then a lot of other things besides that.
Sure.
Yeah, so, okay. So,
Okay.
you have
Thank
nothing else? Thank you, thank you.
Let us know if there's anything else that you may need.
We certainly
Any other
will.
clarification.
Absolutely, thank you. Or did you have anything? Okay. All righty then. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Now we're getting kind of close to, time back on the agenda. Did you want to continue talking about these things now, or did you want to do that later? Some of your
Well-
concerns?
I think we gotta make a decision. don't we?
I think, you know, as I stated last week, I mean, we're up against a time frame with this sales tax issue. And, you know, how can we go to the public with a 4.6 million, asking for a $4.6 million bond election, when when we will be able to sit there and say, oh yeah, but we can probably knock $1.5 million off of this deal. In good faith, I can't go to the public with that. And so I've considered this a lot, and I really feel like that we need to cancel the election.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying.
till we can actually study and get this nailed down,
Get a plan together.
put a plan together of something viable and economically of size that we feel like that we can sell to the public, and yet have a good viable transfer station that will serve us for the next 50 years. I mean, we need to look at this 50, 60 years out.
Number one.
Number one. And so in good faith, I can't attend a public meeting and try to sell this present time.
Randy, you have anything to add to that? Your thoughts?
Well, I think probably I've said what I feel is and I've told you right here in the public, is that 4.6 hit me pretty hard. I felt that we had, and I compared it as a Cadillac to what we have today. And even though it's a bare bones fixture, we tried cutting some of the pavement out, we've cut some of that out. And then when I traveled around and looked at all the others, I see that the rest, they don't have to have everything that what we had in our first drawing. So that's what I go back out here and see this ground out here that we own, this county ground out here, but we would have to buy a neighbor's ground. At least I'm looking at between 7.5 and 10 acres, no more than 10 acres at the maximum out there, to put it out there. And that we went back and close to the 3.6, whether we can maybe even, or 3.5, we can maybe even get it out underneath that. If we have some good studying, we know that the grounds, what kind of building we're gonna have, and the ground we're gonna have to work on. If the landowner will know the price of the land, we'll know a whole lot of things, but we don't today, and that's where Kent's at. We
Right.
don't know
I
that, how
mean,
to present it to the public.
We've got a good plan on
Yeah.
option number 2, but
Yeah.
at this point, we don't even know if it's available to us.
Right, correct. And so I agree with what Kent's saying on that, and I would like to, I don't want to cancel it, to tell you the truth. I would wonder if there's any possible way, but there's such a difference between A and B plans here. Washington Street and out there, 180th plan, there's $1 million difference. And that's something that we have to nail down to present to the public. And so I was thinking of even what you said, Diane, last week. You mentioned of getting into some of our funds and stuff like that. But that's getting into things that we haven't done that you guys haven't maybe even heard of yet, is tuck point in this building. That's over $1.5 million project, I think, complete from top to bottom. And things like that happens to us sitting here in these positions. We divided, if I remember right, Tina, we divided in 2 sections, the top half so high and the bottom half so high for the tuck point on this building. And that's, we got to have money back for those kind of things to happen. So, and this tax lid's going to keep us under, you just can't go charge more taxes to the public, and that's what the tax lid's for. So I guess I don't want to, but the other option, unless somebody comes up with a better one, would be to cancel it. But if there's any way possible, I'd like to pursue this 180th road out there as of right now. But I got to have something to present to the public, so we're not there yet.
I mean, why try to sell something that we can't,
Right.
really nail down?
And we really haven't even talked about the funds. There's, like you said too, on the reserves, we really haven't examined that. I did talk to the CPA a little bit on that.
Yeah.
I'm getting some information back from him. And then there's other things to consider, and I don't know, this is just off the top, but it's out there, got possible pilot money, different things like that we haven't considered. I don't know, there's other options we haven't even considered or discussed, we don't know. So I guess I will entertain a motion at this time, whatever you'd like to do. Let's hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and cancel the election, let the half-cent sales tax sunset until we can get things nailed down, and go ahead and continue moving forward on the transfer station to get that nailed down to where we feel like that we can sell that to the public and have a viable location and facility.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor to let the sales tax sunset at this time, but yet move forward with a positive plan or an absolute plan that we can work with for the public. Do I have a second?
Can I have some discussion on that?
Yeah, we have a second, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Is there a second? I'm gonna go ahead and second it. Have discussion?
With that plan, would you still foresee pursuing the tax, half-cent sales tax?
Well, we're gonna have to look at our financial position first and a few other alternatives, but that will be one of our options.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Got a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, carried.
Fooled you.
There you go. Yes, did for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can you only do the election either or during the year? I mean, you can't just have an election anytime during the year, right?
Okay,
Oh, you-
so we're just, I'm sorry.
I was shutting off the phone. You did vote to postpone the election?
Cancel at this time, yes, 3-0. Yes, please.
Yep, right on time.
Move right along, yes.
One,
How are you
Hello.
guys?
Restart. Let's see, we need some more chairs, I think, perhaps. Or do we have enough? I think we're good, okay.
okay.
Would you guys like me here or
Four.
spinning
Wait,
chair?
The hot seat, if you're the speaker,
All right.
no, the other one. If you're the speaker.
Oh,
Oh, that's okay. Mr. Price, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
Looks like you guys got a little more snow than we did.
Did you get more cold than you did?
It's been pretty fresh our way.
That's a nice way of putting it.
you had the blizzard a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah, we did. We're cabining in north central Kansas, and this cold hasn't been too good. It's
That could be ugly.
young mamas haven't figured out how to take care of the babies when it's this cold.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
our success rate's not too great this year. How it works.
well, what do you got for us?
Really wanted to, we had a meeting, last Wednesday. Pat, myself, Nick, our project manager, Kirk and Michael, Greg, our lawyer, Susan, also EGP, Amber, our permitting lady. Just really to kind of put some issues out on the table, walk through the agreements, try to work through some not really differences, but just understanding where each party was coming from. Part of that discussion led to the decommissioning agreement. There's a fair amount of question about the decommissioning agreement, so I just wanted to come today and answer any questions you had on decommissioning, and really kind of give you where we come from and where we attack that issue or think about that issue. My apologies that it is not Nick. We're not trying to do the bait and switch on you. Nick is the project manager, I'm his boss, but Nick's niece performed at Carnegie Hall last night. So he couldn't get a flight early enough to get here this morning, and I thought it was more important to see your niece from Dubai at Carnegie Hall than make a commission meeting. So that's why I'm here and not Nick this morning. So
You can pass it on, we'll allow that today.
okay, yeah, I will shoot him a text that you allow that. So do you guys want to do you want me to start with some thoughts on decommissioning, and then you guys pull some questions if you need to. Really, how we set the decommissioning agreement up, or our thoughts on decommissioning. And sometimes we have to approach this in planning and zoning, and sometimes we don't. We in years current, we've been doing these with our landowners, so that's where our experience comes, most of it. So we set up a project for about a 30-year useful life. It's it's an advanced machine that's well maintained. They're from reputable firms in the U.S. and abroad that have done this many years. So we're confident in that 25 to 30 years. The other part of the equation is PPAs, power purchase agreements. We're selling the power, and these projects work because we sell the power. This project has multiple PPAs, or will have, and they're for 20-year duration. We might see a 25-year one, but I think they're all going to be 20 years. So we've got a contractual obligation beyond our one with the landowner, but we've got to provide power to somebody for 20 years, or we're in big trouble. There's a risk on not delivering on the contract. And then you have tax equity. We're not a taxed. We have to bring a tax partner in. There's tax advantages in our model, and so you have to bring in a partner to take care of those tax advantages, and they become a partner, an equity partner in the project, and they get paid first. So they're in the project for 10 or 15 years. So it's almost like having a second mortgage or a first mortgage on your project. You not only owe for all your infrastructure that you built, you also owe somebody that's put money into the project in terms of equity. So they buy into the project in the beginning, and we have to pay them back. So there's the entity of providing the power, but then there's an entity of tax equity that has to be paid back, and they're paid back in that 10 to 15 year range. So really, EGP, the buyer of the project, doesn't start making money. I mean, they're always making money, but for themselves until that 10 or 15 year mark, because you have to pay back tax equity and pay the mortgage. So a couple things we base that on. I know some of the question was when you put decommissioning in, so that kind of leads to that 10 or 15 years for decommissioning. We figure right now about $200,000 a turbine to decommission them, and that's not less salvage value, so it costs about $200K each. So a project with 95 turbines is about $19 million. We, in almost all cases, take out salvage value, or been allowed to take out salvage value, which will lessen that number. To give you a little perspective on that cost, it costs about $450 million to build this project, is the cost. So decommissioning costs are well below what the project's actually worth the first day it goes in the ground. Really, in terms of others doing this, Oklahoma actually has a state statute. They've built about 3 gigawatts of wind in Oklahoma. We are probably Oklahoma's not my district, but I think we've probably built more wind in Oklahoma. We've built more wind in Kansas than anybody, and I think we've done the same in Oklahoma. They require decommissioning in 10 years and allow less salvage value. It's the decommissioning costs are evaluated by an independent engineer. It's agreed upon by the state and the wind farm, and then it's revisited every 5 years to make sure that value of the letter of credit or whatever security is posted is good, or enough, sufficient. So just wanted to give you an example of what other entities, since you're a government entity, is doing.
Do you have any number roughly what per unit that what comes to after the junk value? And
I don't.
If
It
it's 200,000
really
to-
just depends on the market.
I
I
don't know what junk's gonna be at.
well, a year and a half ago, iron was
Yeah.
105 a ton,
Right.
and now it's what, 40. Might be creeping back to that 50, but it got as low as probably 25. So salvage value would be a tough number. But I can get that for you, but I don't have it. I mean, I think the bigger thing to look at is it's not for a $450 million project. 20, less than 20 million doesn't seem like a lot in terms of what it costs to take the project down. Our lease has this exact provision in it. Year 15, we have to provide a letter of credit to the landowners that's evaluated by an independent engineer to take down the project. It is less salvage value and it is performance based. So they can't, if we walk away from the project, they can't draw on the bond and pay off their 3/4 of ground. They can, but they still have to take the turbine down. So it's performance based. If they want the money, they have to take the infrastructure down. So there's a level of protection there for you guys in terms of the landowner can't just take the money and you still have the eyesore. I'm not sure eyesore is the word for it, but you don't have the junk turbine if it is that point that you have to worry about. And the landowner took the money and run. So, and a lot of times, actually every time until, every wind farm we've built, that security has sufficed for both the county and the landowner. So we produce it for the county if the county wants it, or the state. In North Dakota, we produced it for the state. The county accepts it as security, and so does the landowner. It's not duplicative. So. A little discussion on line of credit, letter of credit. That's almost always what we do on those. So if you have any questions on letter of credit versus cash, cash is very tough. Cash is, writing a check to an entity. It's really hard for a model to take that infusion day 1 or day 15. So if you get a letter of credit from a bank, it's as good as the bank the letter of credit's drawn on. It has nothing to do with the entity that the letter of credit was drawn on, because they've produced collateral for that letter of credit, and that collateral stands until it's taken away. So our preference would always be letter of credit because it's cheaper for everybody. Gives more revenues to be used through the project for the landowner and the project. So that's kind of the rundown on decommissioning. We've been working with Pat on it. We're trading red lines. Really the date that we need to press to is the project absolutely has to go into construction April 1st. And if it doesn't, it will be to everybody's detriment. So really March 1st, we've got to be done with RMA and decommissioning agreement. Those two need to be done by March 1st. So whatever we can do to get to that date is important for us.
I believe at our meeting that night, a question was asked of the public. They said you had went over these decommissioned agreements with all of the landowners, and we asked the landowners that they was happy, and I think we had a lady stand up and say we didn't even know why we was continuing that question at that time. So where are you at with us on decommissioning? And I sort of thought we was going to be ruled out as far as county protecting that.
I guess I left the meeting with maybe the same thought, but we're negotiating a decommissioning agreement. So it's a requirement of the county, from what I see now. I don't know if it was before, but it can be as simple as, post the same security that
we did with the other
lease has.
company. We took care of it first up front. That's why we did it before. So that's why I think there's both sides.
We need to find a middle ground, because up front I think is unreasonable. It doesn't make sense to have a decommissioning. There's a $450 million asset sitting there that's going to have worth to somebody, especially in the 20-year PPA. That wind farm has to operate to provide power. So that's why we would suggest, year 15, I would probably talk about something between there.
Bruce, you want to address how under your leases, the amount of the security for decommissioning is determined for year 15?
I'd have to pull it out, but it's by independent audit. An engineer comes in and makes that estimate. I would have to pull out the exact language, and I can't.
But it's gross takedown
Yeah,
value,
it's
less
gross
salvage.
less salvage. So there was proposed 125% in here. We see 100%. We see the no salvage value taken out. I have, in my 12 years of wind experience, have never seen a plus calculation of above and beyond 100%. You just don't see it.
So, Bryce, I have a question for you.
Yep.
And from my perspective, I'm not getting into the private property owners' agreements at all. I'm not even interested in that. When I think about decommissioning from a county perspective, I'm thinking of when you're putting up these turbines, we have the road maintenance agreements because of all the weight and all the damage and all that stuff that's going through our roads. Setting back fence posts and stuff, widening corners, bridges and so on to protect them. Now, when I hear decommissioning, and I'm talking again from a county perspective, the same thing's gonna happen only in reverse. We have to widen these roads, we have to protect our bridges, we have to move the fences back. That's what I'm looking for in decommissioning. What you pay those property owners, at my point, I'm not going down that road. So I wanna know, under decommissioning, I'm standing by the protecting the county's infrastructure for when you carry all that same stuff out that you're carrying in, whether it's junk or whatever you wanna call it. At that same, I'm sure it's still heavy.
Yeah, I guess maybe I misspoke on paying the landowner. The way it works is they would have to hire a company or remove it themselves, and they would still have to abide by the laws of the county, weight limits on your roads and those types of. They just can't take it down and haul it out. It's the cost to remove the wind farm. It's just the way we have it set up in our lease is the landowners would be able to initiate that process.
So you're saying that
so-
the farmer would be responsible for our roads and stuff like that as they haul that out? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. I wouldn't know why they wouldn't. Just like they can't, they can't heavy haul on your roads now. They can't exceed the weight of your bridge. It's not carte blanche for them to do what they want.
But that's only if they access the security and the operator doesn't decommission it themselves, and that's the backstop.
Yeah.
And what we understand is that there's gonna have to be a backstop for the county as well. So, and we've talked about the fact that during that decommissioning process, there's going to be consideration.
I guess I need that to be explained a little
For
more.
the,
We've talked about,
Yeah.
I think you'd agreed that it was appropriate to have the road maintenance agreement address not only up front, but also during the course of the project and as it ends. And so really that's part of the road maintenance agreement, as I understand where we're going right now, not part of the decommissioning. Is that right?
well, yeah. I think we can decide how to do it
Okay.
legally, but I think we agree that even during decommissioning, even during operations, even during decommissioning, there's an obligation to maintain and repair roads or bridges or culverts that are affected because of the
And while we don't have an agreement yet on the nature of the security for that, we do, I think, have a shared understanding that there needs to be security for that.
I think we're probably that's two different junctures. Our obligation is our goal is to build a wind farm, operate it, and decommission it, and leave perform to the lease and perform to the CUP as we were legally obligated to. So really, the landowner drawing on the bond or the county drawing on the bond would be if we weren't there, if there was a walk away or we said, hey, we're done here. So at that point, it wouldn't be us performing to the. It would be another contractor, or it possibly could be the landowner, but they've got to all.
So we were
operate
saying if a
together.
landowner decided they wanted to decommission, they'd have to pay to have the thing torn down. all this stuff coming out would fall outside of our road maintenance agreement.
If we weren't there, yes. Our wish would be that we would perform
Yeah.
the task.
I think you speak prematurely when you say it would be outside the road maintenance agreement. We have not dealt with that question explicitly yet. I think we're gonna wanna see that we have security for the damage to the road regardless of who undertakes the actual decommissioning.
Okay. It's yeah, agreeing what the security needs to be. But that would affect, if we're gonna address it in the road maintenance agreement, that needs to affect the cost of security and
This gets confusing. So if we're talking about a road maintenance agreement, are you talking about if we're asking for X number of dollars to be escrowed, are you saying that it would be in the form of a letter of credit?
Yep.
I got a problem with letters of credit, especially when you're looking 10, 15 years out. Letter of credit's only as good as the institution that issues it.
yeah, the bank.
Right. You don't know if there's gonna be a bank failure. You don't know what their legal counsel is gonna do when they sell. Bank's gonna sell. Okay, what's obligations under a new institution? As this letter of credit passes, because it's gonna happen, letter of credit's gonna be issued by XY institution. That letter is gonna move to the new owner. Now, there's a lot of negotiation that goes on in sales, and you know, what kind of comfort level do we have that next institution is gonna honor it?
It's an irrevocable letter of credit, so it is a binding contract on that. If let's say Bank of America issues it.
Yeah,
Bank
what
of
if
America
you
goes out
have a
of business.
failure though?
Well, if you issue a performance bond on your road construction on a new project, that insurance company that bonded that could go out of business. I mean, there are those, you know,
Yeah.
if you wanna go
Yeah.
to the worst case all the time. What we have on, I think, on the decommissioning is, when is it triggered? When do you get security? And then how much security and what kind of security? And so the amount is enough to take everything down, protect your roads during that process, and then what form it's in is determined by, you know, and I think the way we've done it in the past is, it has to be approved by the county, whatever the letter of credit is. So if we went into Joe's Bank, which is a little bank in my hometown of Frankfort, Kansas, you go, no, I don't think I want a letter of credit for $1 million from First National Bank of Frankfort. But if it's a bank that's been around, or that you're comfortable with at the time, then it's just like you're drawing on escrow. It's a letter of credit, and you can talk to your attorney about it later, or your financial advisor.
Yeah, but how hard is it gonna be to draw on that letter of credit? If our engineers say, we gotta fix this, and we need X number of dollars, is that good enough for us to draw on the letter of credit? Or what kind of hoops do we have to jump through to get it?
Really, you would just drop an affidavit that you guys would sign that says the wind farm didn't perform to this. We testify that it's not been performed to, and
The short answer is that the letter of credit itself will define what we would need to produce to the bank in order to be paid.
Sure.
And so when we're approving a letter of credit, if we approve it, that's part of what goes into it, is what are we comfortable with being the trigger
Okay.
for the bank being required to pay on the
Right.
letter of credit.
Yeah, okay.
I was speaking to what we've done in the past. Yeah.
And those are all good questions, but because the mechanism is important, and I think that whether the trigger is 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, at that point, the letter of credit or the security has to be acceptable to the county, and you three will still be here, of course. I think now nobody's making a commitment to 12 more years. But the county has to agree to that, and the terms of that letter of credit, and what do I have to give you to get the money back to
Right.
fix that bridge?
Yeah, that was my question.
Will be defined in there. And I suppose, I mean, I can't think of a way that the value goes away unless the institution completely goes away and nobody wants to buy its assets and liabilities, which is a theoretical possibility. But banks, when they sell, their obligations are still there. You know, you're only guaranteed so much in your deposit accounts through the FDIC, but the obligations of the institution are still there. It's theoretically possible somebody could go away and there's nobody.
Well, it's just that I've seen bank sales where the new buyer comes in and says, we want to buy these assets, which would be basically be loans, but we don't want these loans.
And I hope you guys understand that we don't expect to see you guys here 12 years from now.
Yeah.
We don't expect that. What we gotta do is protect our interests 12 years or 15 or 20 years down the road from our roads getting tore up, and that's, I think that's what, that's exactly what you guys are asking for.
The other thing you have to
The only
look
thing
at
I'm
is
concerned about is our roads.
RMAs generally go away at the end of the construction. And in every wind farm I've ever built, they went away at the end of the construction. One, because the day we start producing power, we become a taxpayer. So we're like everybody else that pays taxes. You don't have RMAs with any other entity in the county. So during operation of the wind project, we're another citizen in your county, and should have the benefit of our taxes.
You have no break, 10-year tax break?
We do.
Okay.
We have the same utility exemption.
Okay.
Have you signed many RMAs with utilities? Okay, so yeah, we do become a taxpaying entity at some point, and we pay you a pilot. So then we've always covered that in the decommissioning costs. So the RMA extending beyond the life of construction is new territory for us.
So Bryce, when did you put up the first Met Tower and stuff up? Was that in?
I think we're at two years.
So it was in 2016
Yep.
something?
Yep.
Okay. And again, I'm only talking about county roads and county property here. And, and I personally have a problem too with the letter of credit. Do they not have a limit on them at a time? I mean, do they go indefinitely, letters of credit?
That, they can.
Okay.
Well, I guess where we've looked at or asked for it to start in year 10 or year 15, I don't know why the validity or worthiness or possibilities could not be revisited at the same time. When the engineer's reviewing the wind farm in terms of salvage value and what it takes to take it down, one could probably look at, is the letter of credit in the right place, or is the security in the right place and the right amount? I don't know why you couldn't revisit that.
Because what if it's not? Then what?
Then you lose your CUP. If you don't have a letter of credit in place, you don't have a CUP, and you have to take the wind farm down. And then you're violating the CUP. So.
What if the county was to outright put up $2 million to be held in escrow for decommissioning?
Well.
That's not what they're offering us.
No, that's not what they're offering.
I know it.
Who said we can't ask?
I don't know. I think we need something, and I personally don't care for letter of credit. I just think that the road damage and all that's going in and out, it scares me. Because I don't know what's gonna happen 10 years down the road, 15, 20, we don't know. And then all these different little things that we have to do, or they have to do, or you have to apply for this, apply for that, and all these little catches out here. It just seems like.
As a county, you have to realize there's benefit to having the wind farm.
Oh, I love this part of the wind farm.
So you have to, I guess you have to take the good with the bad, and I don't want to say bad because I don't agree with you on that point. So I mean, we're both in this together, so there has to be trust both ways, I guess. Those little things that scare you are also things that affect the project today. So $2 million cash up front affects the pro forma that's already set in stone. So that money has to come from somewhere.
But how come you didn't come ask us first before you went to all the people?
We've been working in the county for 2 years.
Yeah, I know, but
So-
you didn't come formally to us
I
to ask us about this until after you had your plan with the farmers or with the public. We all know that they would like to have I would love to have a section of ground with 5 of them on or 6, because when you come offer me, I'm gonna be gung-ho for it too. But I was personally disappointed in not coming and asking us what we would like to work on this agreement before you already had yours, because when we started to ask, when you come to ask us, and we started asking this, oh, we've already got it set, and as I said, we've heard that.
Right.
I do respect your position, Randy. We that's why we work so hard on the CUP language. Generally, decommissioning is a requirement of the CUP, and those are all in there. So it was surprising when we came to you guys and you did ask for it, and it's addressed in the CUP.
Yeah, and I'm just going from experience from the first one, so.
Yep.
You know, I haven't done what you guys
I
have
understand,
done.
yeah. So, we're working on the decommissioning agreement. We're gonna have to agree on a security. We've gotta do it by March 1st, or we're gonna, things are gonna slow down big time, and it's gonna affect everybody, the county, the landowners, and the project. So.
Is there any numbers out there that you're willing to throw an agreement out to us with, or anything like that?
I would have to get back with EGP and talk about what the model can stand and where the money comes from.
Okay.
So, we have heard you that you want money up front. We might come with a hybrid of money up front and then something in year 15.
Pat, am I speaking out of turn above you?
We're gonna talk after
Okay.
this in executive session, and then, so if you've got questions for me, we can talk about those, but you're certainly free to have an open discussion with him.
If I step on you, let me know.
I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll scream.
Madam Chair, one thing I might point out is, there's this feeling that a letter of credit isn't as good as an escrow. The escrow is also gonna have instructions about when and how the county can exercise it. It's not just you just don't have a checking account. So whatever agreement we work out between the county and the project, it's gonna have a series of, this turbine's been out 6 months, you haven't taken it down, I gotta come in and get the money. And whether that's an escrow or a performance bond with an insurance company, and insurance companies go out of business sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, or if it's a letter of credit, they're really the same kind of structure and conditions I think you're gonna end up with that triggers the county's right to go get the money. What we're trying to get is the one that's the most efficient and economical, that both gives you the security you need and gives the project the best economics. And putting it up front, spending $10 million or $2 million and just putting it somewhere up front is not the most economical way. And our job is to make you comfortable that other methods of security will be just as good, so that whoever's on the county commission 15 years from now doesn't have a bunch of torn up roads. And again, we're talking about 30-year life, but 30 years from now, when they actually decommission it, there's a solid letter of credit for the right amount of money to take them down and to take care of your roads. So we're all on the same page, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do it that not only protects I'm an elected official, so I understand what you're doing. You gotta worry about the next commissioners down the line. And we've got to worry about making sure the project is the most efficient possible, because that benefits not just our landowners, but the whole county too. How do you maximize that amount? And as the expenses go up, you don't maximize the amount of benefit to everybody. So that's why this discussion was helpful today, to kind of get an idea of, because I don't think decommissioning has been an explicit discussion before. Your ordinance just says, the only decommissioning thing in the ordinance is that you take everything down to 4 feet. So in the CUP, we agreed as a condition that we have an agreement, because we believe we can find something that's reasonable and that will be mutually beneficial.
And I appreciate that. I would just say, speaking from myself, I've done a lot of study and research on this from many other counties around us who have experienced wind energy, all different companies, different things, and I haven't found one yet that accepted a letter of credit. Every one of the ones that I spoke to, they have money in escrow. And listening to their experiences, the different counties and things like that, using their suggestions and ideas and what they've experienced, good and bad, is where I come from. That's my thought as far as the cash rather than the letter of credit, because it doesn't seem to me like that's something that is very popular, or it's not something that a lot of the surrounding counties are doing. It's not something that I've seen from the ones that I spoke to.
On decommissioning agreements specifically, or
And
road maintenance?
And road
both?
agreements, yeah.
And again, the other difference is the amount. I mean, the cash up front, if it's $10 million, that's different than it's some smaller number. So
We've done-
those
we've
all
done
affect the economics at the end of the day.
We have put 150,000 in cash up for an RMA. So I will say we've actually done probably half. Out of the 7, I think we've done cash on 2 or 3, maybe 4, and the others we were allowed to do a letter of credit. So, but the highest we've seen on any of those in Kansas is 150,000. I think we went as high as we've done 330,000 in Oklahoma, but I would have to look back. I think that was a letter of credit.
Are you talking on
RMA
RMA? 150,000 is the most you put up?
in Kansas, yeah,
Oh, your company maybe.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
We
we
ain't
built.
paying for much rock.
No, not really.
Well, the rocks there.
Yeah.
The aggregate's there. You don't need any more aggregate.
Yeah, and I just can't see county commissioners dealing with the landowners back when it does crumple down and we have to take it apart. I just can't see commissioners having to deal with them to cover their expenses on the road, because they're not gonna be.
It's our road.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not their road.
yeah,
Right.
I just
That's
don't
why
s-
I'm worried about our
I don't
road.
see any commissioner having any good luck trying to deal with a landowner that's taking down one of these things, you know, so, I don't know. That's a concern.
Well, they come out in more pieces than they go in.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you
Alright.
don't carry the 180,000 pound
Okay.
nacelle. You carry it in because it needs to be operational.
Right.
But when you take it out, you don't pay the $27 a mile to haul a 180,000 pound piece out. You cut it into enough pieces that it meets the load limits of the.
Okay.
They can't be on that bridge unless they meet the
Right.
load limits.
Okay.
So
Not
that
true. I
it
can see
comes
that.
in more pieces. Is what we
Okay.
look at. So, the only other thing that I really need to talk about today, is building permits. Our goal was to already start applying for building permits. We didn't expect the RMA discussion to go on this long. Part of, as we spoke a month and a half or so ago, we have to have the RMA to get the building permits applied for. March 1st, when we get all this signed and all this done, we are gonna drop 105 building permits into Sharon and Emma's lap. They're gonna be overwhelmed and inundated with work, and will affect your guy that wants to put up a fence in the county or a new approach. So what we would ask is that you guys look at allowing us to start applying for our building permits, knowing that we have to have an RMA to build the project. It would be at our risk, and our application fee would be at risk, but it would allow them to get started and have a 2-month run at it instead of a month. So,
You said 150 permits?
105. So it's going to be 50. We're going to write a check for $50,000 that we're willing to say, if we don't come to an RMA and the project doesn't get built, it's non-refundable application fee. So it would help us out by getting our building permits ready sooner, and it, I think, would help Sharon's and Emma's office out on just having time to review.
Absolutely, I agree.
So
It would be similar as to with the laydown yard permits, they were commissioners allowed for them to submit the applications. Nothing has been approved or otherwise yet, but it gives us more time to review those permit applications.
And they sent us the letter saying that the laydown yard was approved and everything looked good. But the formal approval and building permit would not be issued until we met the CUP provision, which is having an RMA and decommissioning agreement in place. So I think it is mutually beneficial to both parties, the county and us, to start those if you guys see fit. So. Yeah, because if not, again, March 1st, you guys have 30 days, essentially a 30-day shot clock to get them back, and that's a lot to return in 60 days, let alone 30 days. So,
Do you have locations on every one of them to exact pinpoints? I mean, you have flags? And
yeah, we have IFC drawings ready, issued for construction
Are
drawings.
they actually pinpointed out there in the field? Where these?
Some are where they've been drilled, but yeah, if that was a provision to make sure they were all flagged, they can be flagged.
So
we've discussed with Emma and Sharon, we can provide the actual GPS coordinates of the turbines. And I talked with them this morning about it staking if they want specific locations staked, or taking them around and showing them with our construction people. So we've chatted about being able to field verify.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll also provide setback maps that says that dot and that coordinate is X number of feet from this setback.
Okay.
That was one of my questions. I didn't know on that. I've been trying to deal with Kirk and Michael and Sharon on that. Like the laydown yard, they got with me on that permit, and I went and checked those locations, and where you're having it, I'm totally okay with. The only thing with all these access points, do I or Kirk or Mike, do we go look at these spots, and then if we do, where do we know where these contractors are gonna put in? There needs to be a culvert here, but no, they're just gonna go put a plug in and just fill the ditch real quick so they have a driveway out into the field. That's the stuff I don't know, and that's why I'm asking. I mean, are engineers even studying that stuff to where we're putting a 15-inch tube there, and then they'll cover it and start their driveway? And I'm not talking about private land, I'm just talking about a right of way. That's what starts your whole driveway anyways.
Kirk and Michael can look at that, but we're required by the Army Corps of Engineers to have a SWIP, a Stormwater Prevention and Pollution Plan. And we cannot change the alluvial flow of the site before, during, or after construction. So if that's a drainage, we have to size the culvert to allow the drainage and not increase or delay the drainage onto the next property. So that's the other part of it, is you can't dam up. I have to have a sufficient culvert for that watershed to go to the next spot.
And I take it
they
follow by that. I mean I'm aware of all those stuff. I just didn't know.
Yeah,
the
Army Corps of Engineers requires it. I mean, we can't get the permit.
Are your access points on your pre-construction plans already?
Because if something happened to be in a floodplain, I don't know how to driveway.
The IFC drawings are the drawings that they can go out there and build the project with.
Okay, so it should have all that information.
Yeah, it should have grading lines, flow lines, floodplain levels, topping times, so 100-year, whether it'll top the road or not.
Okay. And Kirk and Michael now has those plans, right?
I'm not sure they have the IFC drawings. They have the road.
Those drawings weren't part of what they were given Wednesday.
And that access road then that you're talking about, Jesse, does that become a permanent restricted structure then for that access to that plant or to that tire?
Yeah, generally we don't put extra in, almost never.
Okay.
We might for a laydown yard in terms of getting big trucks in and out. Those will come back out. Right. But the roads to turbines, we use the roads. Now they might be wider, and they might have a bigger radius during construction, but those are generally removed. So what you might do is you'll see a culvert that's a couple pieces. The permanent culvert's in, and you put extensions on it. And then after construction, you pull the extensions off. I mean, you guys probably do it too. So.
I'm done questioning.
You're done questioning? Any more questions? Do you have anything else, Bryce?
Really just your thoughts on moving forward on the permits, if you guys do, or discussion.
I'd like to hear from our council before we make any other decisions.
Okay.
At this time, personally, is what I'd like to do. Okay, so.
The only other thing I think Pat is going to talk about this is there was some discussion in past, and then with our group as well, on who the really authority was. And I think the group came to, there was talk of having that as Kirk and Michael. I think our group talked about it, and our preference is really the backstop being Jesse. That we work with Kirk and Michael, but if there's disagreement or question, we can always go to a county official. because they can see that whole picture. So I think, Pat, you'll speak to that some, but that was one of the other things we covered in our meeting. And then I think probably best is you guys do your executive session, then we can talk about security for roads and.
Well, if you have something that I think you want to, that you think you want to share with them about that, probably you want to do that before our executive
Okay.
session so that I can then also address that with them.
So there was a question of about a 10 million security in the RMA. We really never could get a clear picture on where that came from. Kirkham Michael was gonna study our road plan and get a number.
Bryce, just so that you know, the discussions that we've had in working up the RMA have not involved the county commission other than the general outline of what we're trying to accomplish. So these details, we're gonna be meeting again this week to go through it again with Kirk and Michael. Just
Okay.
keep in mind that background.
Okay.
So when you say the $10 million number, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Kirk and Michael had suggested a $10 million security in the RMA, which we said was way beyond what it needed to be. Just to give you guys a little background on that, I broke into the construction, essentially invoice or bill of materials or what it was going to take to build the wind farm, and to upgrade the roads, do all the aggregate maintenance, repair for the entire duration of construction, widening of turns, widening of roads, upgrading all the culverts in our plan, working on the one bridge we have to cross, and then undoing all that work and returning the roads back to where we found them, no radiuses back, was right at $3.4 million. Your county road budget last year was 6.7, so we were just struggling with how high that number was. So just some food for thought in terms of numbers when you do talk with Pat, in terms of what it costs to do certain things in the county in wind farm construction. I think that's it. So we'll step in the hall during your executive session. I'll be around to answer questions after.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you. Thank you.
I did get a message that Doug Lane is not going to come back for his scheduled agenda time.
Okay.
How long would you?
25 minutes, I think, is what we reserved to
25
begin
minutes.
with. We may need to go longer, but let's start with 25.
Okay, I'm going to move that we enter into executive session in order to discuss for consultation with our attorney-client privilege concerning the wind farms pursuant KSA 754319B for approximately 25 minutes with Mr. Pat, Susan, Commission. Do I have a second? Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.